We are, I think. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Erica Knowles, and I'm with Civitas Strategies. I'm happy to be here to discuss a very, very crucial topic for your childcare business, and that is monthly budgeting. Creating a monthly budget is a key component of managing your business's finances to help ensure what you care about most is possible in your childcare business. Like I said, excited to be back with you all. Hope all is well out there. I am in the state of Virginia, but very excited to be here today. So today we are going to take a deep dive into monthly budgeting, which is going to include 4 simple steps to help you create that monthly budget. I'm going to ask everyone, if possible, if you could hold on to your questions until the end. We will have a Q&A time at the end. I will also be sharing some information on the Tom Copeland blog at the end as well. This is where you'll be able to go through over 1,500 resources and ask questions to one of our experts if you still have them, which those questions are then answered during our monthly Q&A on the blog. All right, so quick disclaimer before we get started. The information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information are not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information, including the use of AI, are expressly prohibited. Only non-commercial uses of this work are permitted. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get started. So before we dive in to creating a budget, let's discuss just a little while why you actually need one. Like you don't have enough things going on all throughout your days. So understanding the purpose is your very first step, and it's very, very important. Then we're going to talk through the practical steps to build your personalized budget. You will need to gather very specific financial information in order to get started on that. Then we're going to discuss 2 critical components for any successful budget, revenue and expenses. Incomplete or inaccurate tracking can give you a false picture of your finances, which could potentially lead you to believe that you have more money or less money. Usually it's less money, but than you think. So we will show you exactly how to begin your budgeting process, your budgeting journey with confidence. So an annual budget is a critical tool for managing your childcare business. That's the goal, right? Is to get you to where you're able to create an annual budget. It helps you plan for what you will spend. It helps you to monitor your actual revenue and expenses to help keep you on track. However, a year-long budget may seem completely out of reach for some of you, especially considering the ever-shifting costs of things right now. So starting a budgeting process with a monthly time frame can help and provide you a foundation to build on, and also help you manage any necessary adjustments as you move forward. your budget will change from month to month, chances are. And it is why you should make it a key part of your monthly practices. A wonderful thing about budgeting is that it's really going to lead you to start looking at your business's finances very closely. I like to say that you're going to peel your blinders off and really pay attention to what money is coming in and going out of your business. So, budgeting is one of the first steps in helping you to become an expert in the financial health and stability of your business. And that's the goal, is for you to be a sustainable childcare business. We know that you're an expert in childcare right now. So we want you to also understand and know how to become an expert in your finances as well. So you are going to find that budgeting will open the door to then creating cash flows, which are also very important, and profit and loss statements and balance sheets, and future using those for future financial projections. So these are all aspects of your financial situation that can help you to explore and also make sense of your finances. So if you are doing a monthly financial review, then you are already ahead of the game. If not, it's now a perfect time to start and to really think about starting. So having an awareness of your business's finances and where it stands at all times is very, very important. Too often we see businesses that don't understand their finances. They don't understand kind of their financial position until tax time arrives. By then, you have already missed a full year's opportunity to take control of your finances. So I'm here today to encourage you not to wait until tax time to learn about your business's financial standing. So let's do that. So here's our step-by-step process to creating and tracking a monthly budget. So number one is to gather information. We're going to go into further detail on these in the next couple slides. But number two is to list your income. Number three is to list your expenses. And number four is to track your actuals and build out the next month. So these steps aren't difficult to follow. Once you get the hang of this exercise, you will likely want to make it one of your monthly business habits, and be a starting point for further and longer term budgets in the future. Again, with that goal being a month or a yearly budget. Now, if you're just beginning, start with a monthly goal, and then work your way to a quarterly budget. And then, like we said, eventually you'll be able to get to that annual budget. As previously mentioned, building a budget includes these four straightforward steps. So you're going to gather that information, list income, list your expenses, and then track your actuals and build your next month's budget. So let's explore these steps a little further. So the first step is to gather documentation. What does that mean? What are you gathering? To do this, we want you to pull together 2 to 3 months of documents that show your income and your expenses. There are some of the possible documents listed on the screen, but you want to gather things like bank statements, credit card statements, Venmo transactions. However the parents are paying you, you want to make sure that you are gathering documentation for that. You also want to think about things like your utility bills, any other receipts for purchases, any documentation that you have, again, for receiving tuition payments. Now, when possible, try to use actual amounts in your income and your costs for greater accuracy. However, sometimes you may not know. You may not know exactly what your next month's electricity bill is going to be, and that's okay. You can use an average for things like that. So again, try to use the actuals if possible. And if not, using that average is okay. So when you're using the average, we want you to try to create a little bit of a cushion in there. So, try to, when you're, thinking my electricity bill is going to be whatever it's going to be, $200, which would be wonderful. You may want to say 225 or 250 just to give yourself a little bit of a cushion. Anywhere from 3 to 6 months to create that average is great. Again, trying to pinpoint and gather as much information as possible in creating those averages is going to help you to really see the money coming in to your business and going out. So as you continue to build your budget, think about the revenue and expenses and how much they vary. So the goal is to keep this as accurate as possible across months and months and months. So being diligent and accurate as you build out your budget makes your budget more relevant. And the purpose of budgeting is to have an accurate picture of your revenue and your expenses. So again, the money coming in and the money going out of your childcare business. So the way to keep track of your revenue and expenses is through record keeping. And I feel like I may have done a record keeping webinar with you all not long ago. Having a solid record keeping system is the key to making monthly budgeting easier than if you would be needing to dig through boxes or your computer or your phone in order to find those documents each month. The easier that you can make it, the the clearer that you can be in your record keeping system, the less time it's going to take you when it comes time to gather this documentation. So some record keeping systems are paper based, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you receive any bills electronically and pay them automatically, on your computer, you want to make sure you're not forgetting about those, like utilities or credit card statements. You'll need to keep track of those emails, or if you're going to do everything in paper, print them off so you have them as well. So on the other side of that, you can maintain a spreadsheet or something like that on your computer as well, in order to keep track and kind of have that type of record keeping system as well. A spreadsheet could be kept and it could be written in a notebook. It doesn't have to be Excel if that's scary to you. That's okay. But you could use, a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or an Excel file if you have Microsoft Office. You could also keep it on your phone. Again, you could use the Google Sheets app to create a mobile-friendly spreadsheet. This way, you would have access to it at all times because most of us have our phones at all times. So again, totally up to you on which way you decide to keep your records, but making sure you have a solid record keeping system is the key. Some of you may be proficient with bookkeeping like QuickBooks or again, some other program. And that's fine, that's great, but you do not have to learn QuickBooks or any other of these programs in order to create your monthly budget. So the next big step is to list your income. To determine accurate monthly income, you will first need to calculate the money that you will bring in based on the number of children that you currently have enrolled at the different rates that you are charging. In a moment, we will take a look at kind of a spreadsheet that you can use or create to help you do that. But understanding the importance of listing out exactly how much you are bringing in each month per child is very, very important. Some income categories to consider are, your regular fees and tuition, subsidy payments, grants, any other money that you are bringing in, as in if you are part of the food program, so the CACFP, and any other types of money or fees or anything that you bring in is very important to keep track of. So now that you've kind of determined the money that you are bringing in each month from fees, you were going to enter it into your monthly budget next to your fees. Then you'll want to categorize the other money that comes in each month. So we always suggest that you have an other category for things that don't really go into the other categories. So some examples of that other revenue, could be if you sold some items, maybe you sold some things on Facebook Marketplace from your childcare business. Then you would still want to add that money into that other category. It is very important that you remember and consider the fees that you charge. Like, do you charge an annual registration fee on certain, the certain like August or something every year? Do you charge like a summer activity fee or a curriculum fee? Keep in mind all of those different fees and make sure you're thinking and planning for those as well. So here's an example of one of the spreadsheets that I mentioned that is very easy for you to create in order to calculate your monthly fees. You want to break down your enrollment by the monthly rates for age groups, and then how many children you have in your program for each of those age groups. So this is a good way for you to see what you should be receiving in fees each month. Does it seem accurate, or do you feel like you've been taking in less than this? This is really going to, help you to see in black and white exactly what you're bringing in per classroom or per age group that you are having in your childcare business. So think about all of the factors and why your actual revenue is less than what the spreadsheet is showing, if it is. Again, very important for you to be specific, not just clump everyone together. Well, I bring in this much money per month. Write it out so you can see if there's a mistake. If you take part-time children, maybe you have, say, a part-time infant, and in your mind, you're thinking that you're collecting full week tuition for them, but you're really not. That can make a difference for sure in your budgeting. So make sure that you are as specific as possible in all of those numbers that you are writing down. An interesting thing about budgeting, sometimes it can open up a can of worms for you, so to speak. When you add all of your fees up, you may be surprised. It may remind you that it's been a while since you've thought about pricing, and maybe you haven't raised your rates in a while. And if you're going to think about pricing, you need to think about cost of care as well. Cost of care talks about their top cost of care is how much is it actually costing you to care for the children in each age group. So pricing, on the other hand, kind of takes that information and weighs it against some other factors, such as how much can families in your area afford to pay. So now that we're looking into revenue and you're beginning to think about your fees, it can't hurt to also think about how you could examine your pricing. You want to make sure that, again, you're looking at your budget, exactly how much money you're bringing in per child, per age group. And you want to make sure that you are also thinking about how much can families in your area afford. We're not going to take a deep dive on pricing right now, but I definitely want to plant that seed to think about the rates that you're charging. How do you determine your rates? How do you know if it is kind of that just right pricing? I have heard from many providers that I have coached. Well, I called around and got the average and then just made my tuition $5 less than everyone else. While the families may appreciate that, she had no idea if that was enough to cover the cost for her program. So you want to make sure when you're thinking about pricing and finding the just right price that you determine how much your costs are currently, that you again kind of look at the market to see what families can afford, that you then set your rates and you're confident in the rates that you're setting, and that you then also refine those rates yearly at least. Make sure you're keeping up with the market and the cost of goods and things that you have to purchase. So I'm not going to, go off on any more of a tangent on that. But again, just bringing like that budgeting can help you when it comes to figuring out how much you need to charge for tuition. It really is going to help you to improve your financial position. And again, understand where you are and peel the blinders off as to where you are financially in your childcare business. So, step 3 is to list your expenses. How you will categorize money that goes out each month, and be sure to list all of your expenses. So, we talked about revenue, that was the money coming into your program. Now we're thinking about those expenses. So, all of the money that's going out of your program. Again, we think that you should have an other category here as well in order to accurately capture all of your expenses. Remember, this is where record keeping again plays a huge part and is key. Are you keeping all of your receipts for everything that you're purchasing? Or maybe you have a great system already for tracking them. That's great. Keep it up. But if you don't, try to be as consistent as possible in keeping track of all of the purchases that you have for your business. Bank statements are a great way to kind of figure this out. Also, make sure that if you're not already, that you have a separate business bank account. This is really going to make things a lot easier for you as well. Another thing that I will say in expenses is, especially the younger crowd that I have coached, they will literally take a picture of a receipt from a store, email it to themselves, and never even have to worry about that piece of paper. So there are many, many ways in different ideas that you could have for keeping track of your expenses, and whatever works for you is what you need to do. Whatever works for your business is the best system for sure. So when considering your monthly expenses, don't forget the major fixed and also the variable costs. So if you have that wonderful record keeping system that I've mentioned, and hopefully you are accounting your expenses, and this is going to be then an easy task if you have that solid system. If you're still creating or maybe reevaluating that system, again, that's okay. But you'll want to make sure that you're being diligent in tracking and examining your receipts, your bank statements, your bills, your payroll, all of those things. Home-based family childcare providers will want to make sure that you're thinking about the time-space calculation and taking that into account when thinking about your expenses. So really quickly, we are going to touch on the time-space calculation for family childcare businesses, because it is very, very important that family childcare providers understand how this works. So as a home-based family childcare provider, many of the expenses that for your business may be for your business and also for you personally. So how do you figure out how much of your expenses are considered business expenses? The answer may be simpler than you think. So using the time space calculation, family child care home providers can figure out what percentage of their expenses can be deducted on their federal income taxes. Common expenses include things like rent, mortgage interest, property taxes, utilities, other home expenses that are necessary for your in-home business, such as maintenance or repairs. Now, you may be wondering what this has to do with budgeting. Well, a budget needs to be accurate, and if only a portion of your electric bill is for business, then that's the amount of the bill that you would put in your monthly budget. You don't need to put your entire electric bill as your business cost if only a portion of it is actually used for your business. So, do you know that if you have expenses that are solely dedicated to your business and have no elements of common use, so a phone line, say, that you only use for your childcare, the purchase of outdoor equipment for your backyard that only your childcare business uses, those expenses can be reimbursed at 100% of the cost and are not subject to the time space calculation. So keep in mind that all of the work that you do now with time space will pay off at tax time. Once again, another example about how preparing your budget can affect the other areas of your childcare business. So let's look at a few examples of time space. So for exclusive use, it would have to be separate entrance. So it could be like if you're using your basement, if there's a separate entrance for that, that is only used by families in your childcare business, or if you have a storage room that is only used for storage for your childcare business toys and supplies, that is something that would be considered exclusive use. On the other hand, regular use would be, say, if you used a bedroom for your daily nap time for your children, or if you used your living room for your childcare business, say every Wednesday for different activities. Exclusive use space can be fully deducted based on its percentage of home square footage, since it is 100% for your business. Regular use space is deductible based on the percentage of time it is used for your business rather than your personal needs. So having that record keeping system and properly documenting both types of use is key in being able to justify your home office or your home business's deduction. So when you offer childcare in your home, you can determine what percentage of your home is being used for your business and base your expenses, such as property taxes or utilities or home repairs or homeowners insurance, base it on that amount. This helps you understand what part of your home's expenses should be covered by your business. So this percentage is determined by calculating your time space, time percent, and then multiplying that by your space percent. So simply put, your time percent is calculated by adding the number of hours that you are using your home for your business and dividing this number by the total number of hours in a year. So there are 8,760 hours in a year. Your space percent is calculated by dividing the number of square feet your home has and is used regularly by your business by the total number of square feet in your home. So you want to take the number of square feet that you use for your business regularly divided by the number of square feet in your home. So remember that in time space, you will classify your space as either exclusive or regular use. Now, the time portion of the time space calculation weighs how much time regular areas are used for business. Exclusive used spaces are weighed at 100% because there is no other use for those spaces, whereas regularly used spaces are weighted at a proportion of time that you use for your business purposes. So you can determine that time space calculation again here with some easy steps that are on the screen. Number one is you want to determine that square footage of your regular use space. Then you want to divide the number by your home's total square footage. Number three is you want to determine the amount of time your home is used for childcare. Then you want to divide the hours by 8,760, which again are the total hours in a year. You then want to multiply that time and space percentages and divide the exclusive use space by the total square footage of the home, and then add it to the result from step 5. So using these steps, you can easily determine how much of your expenses can be reimbursed or deducted from your federal income taxes. So here's an example, kind of a real life example of how to calculate a time space. So using the steps from the previous slide that we just went through, you can see and determine what her time space would be. So here you can see that the business has a home that is 1,500. The business is in a home that's 1,500 square feet. 500 square feet are exclusively used for childcare. Another 700 square feet are regularly used for childcare. So she opens 10 hours a day and spends 1 hour before and after for prep and cleanup. That time can also be counted. She is closed 2 weeks out of the year for vacation. So let's take a look at how we would then calculate this time space percentage. So the first thing we would do is to determine the square footage of the regular use space. In this case, we already know that the home is 1,500 square feet. 700 square feet are regularly used. So in order to do that, you would take the length times the width and get that square footage. To find the square footage of oddly shaped spaces, it can be a little bit more of a pain, but it is not that hard. You'll want to make sure that you kind of break those rooms down into smaller rectangles and add those together in order to find that. Then for step 2, you would want to divide the square footage of regularly used childcare space by the square footage of the home to determine the percentage. So you would take 700 square feet of regular use divided by 1,500 total square feet, which would bring you to 0.466%. You would round that up to 46.7%. So square footage for outside areas cannot be included in the time space calculation. However, external spaces that are physically attached to the home that are regularly used for a childcare, like your deck or screened-in porch or something like that, that can be included in your space calculation. So step 3, you would determine the amount of time the home is used for childcare during the year. So to do this, you would calculate how many hours the childcare space is open per week including the time you spend in preparing and cleaning up when the children are not even present. Then you're going to multiply this number by the number of weeks that you're open for service, and add any work hours that you performed again while you're closed. So say you're open for 10 hours per day, you have 1 hour of prep and 1 hour of cleanup, which then makes it 12 hours per day. 12 hours per day times 5 days per week times 50 weeks that you're open, because we already said that you were in the example that she was closed for 2 weeks, would be 3,000 hours. So you would take that 3,000 hours and you would divide it by 8,760, which again is the amount of hours in the total year. And you come up with 0.342, which would be 34.2%. So then you're going to take your square footage, which was 46.7, and the hours per year, which was 34.2, and you're going to multiply them together. So it's 0.467 times 0.342, and that's going to equal 0.1597 or 15.97. You can go ahead and round that up to 16%. So we know that there were 500 square feet, and that was used exclusively for childcare. So the total of the home was 1,500 square feet. So you would have that 500 divided by the 1,500, and that's going to give you that 0.33 plus the 16%, which would then give you 49.3%. So this provider in this example, her allowable time space percentage deduction would be 49.3% of allowable home expenses. So going back to our steps for budgeting, step 4 would be to track your actuals and build the next month. So we're going to look at this in a important looking spreadsheet here on the next slide. It's how you look at what you've budgeted versus your actuals. This is a very important step. This is really when a lot of people open their eyes and see exactly what is happening in their business. So now that you know that you need to keep track of what you're bringing in and what you are spending in a month, let's take a look at this spreadsheet and again, really peel back those blinders even more. So here is our monthly budgeting spreadsheet. It's also where you would be able to track your actual costs and your expenses at the end of each month to look for variances and issues that you really didn't know you had. So at the beginning of the month, you are going to go in and put in a number in the planned column. So you are going to, again, look at the documentation that you've gathered in step 1, look at your revenue, look at your expenses, and you're going to fill in the planned column what you think you are going to bring in, and that is the top box, which is your revenue. Then you're also going to fill in that planned column what you think you're going to spend. So, these are mostly, childcare related, or these are childcare related categories. So these are probably what you would have as well for your childcare business. But make sure you're filling in all of those columns and all of those boxes for what you are planning to spend. So this is going to be your budget. So if you look at that and at the end of the month, you go back in, then you put in what you actually spent. So you may think, oh, I'm going to spend, $500 on food, if you are a small family provider. And then you may realize that you actually spent $800 on food because you just buy little things here and there and don't even think about it. Um, that's a problem. That is an issue. And again, filling in that planned column and then going back and filling in that actual column is really going to help you to see that. And the earlier you see that, the better chance you have of correcting that problem. So we've created a budget, and then we talk about, again, thinking in this process. About the third week of the month is when you want to plan for the following month. So about the third week of the month is when you want to fill in that column as the planned column for next month. And then again, at the end of that month, it is so very important that you go in and fill in those actuals. You should always kind of again get a visual on exactly what you were thinking you were going to spend or exactly what you think you're going to bring in versus what you did. I will say that sometimes when you start this process, the planned and the actual columns may be a little crazy, and that's okay. The more you do this process, the more comfortable you get at looking at your expenses and your revenue, the closer these numbers are going to become each month. So hopefully that gives you a little solace in that fact, but it's very, very normal for those first couple months for those columns to be quite off, quite different. And then again, the more you do it, the better those projections and the actuals, the smaller the gap is for those. So now that we know how budgeting helps us align our finances, it's a great time to think about your goals for your childcare business moving forward, and how sometimes with those goals also comes increased expenses. So keep in mind that budgeting isn't a cash flow, which cash flow is going to show you how much money is entering and leaving each month and when it's actually coming in and when it's actually going out. But it's all about helping you to determine and allocate your resources. So remember, as you grow your expenses, you will also need to think about potentially, facility improvements, more marketing and advertising, equipment and supplies, insurance, additional accounting or legal services, additional staff, which is not even on this slide, but additional staff is also very important to think about when you're thinking about growing your business or gaining more revenue. So effective monthly budgeting is invaluable to you in your childcare business. It really is going to help you to improve your business in so many ways. Not only will you be aware of your revenue and your expenses, but budgeting can also help with other things. It can help with analyzing and controlling your costs. When you see it, it makes it a lot more real. I always joke that if I have a $20 bill in my wallet, I will hold on to that. I don't know what it is, but I will swipe my debit card 500 times and not think about it. It's the visual for me. So hopefully, having these, putting these processes into place will help you, again, to kind of peel those blinders off. It's also going to help you by making adjustments between your projections and your actuals. Really seeing what, why do I think I'm only spending this much? Or why did I think I was bringing in more money from this classroom or this age group than I am? Then it's going to help you again with that cash flow document. Your cash flow is really important as well, because that is the money coming in and going out and the timing of that money. It's also going to help you with financial planning for business growth, business development. Again, being sustainable, so very important. So hopefully it has helped you to feel like even if you don't have a budget, you can have a budget. You just have to start small and remember those steps that we went through. All right. We are at the end where I would like to open it up to some questions. So you are more than welcome. You can either put something in the chat, which I don't think there's anything in there, or you can just come off mute and talk to me. Anybody have any questions? Thanks, Kristen.
Also, Erica, I wanted
Yeah.
to just make a sort of a plug. Um, daily rates were never really a question or concern or topic really that we ever dealt with as the council with our programs until Universal Preschool came around.
Yep.
And they said, well, what's your daily rate or your hourly rate? And then programs were saying, I don't know. I have no idea. So I thought it was great how you presented everything kind of seamlessly, just showing that there's little parts and pieces that make up the whole budget or the whole business, run on a smooth level. So that was awesome. And then I had one more thought and I can't think of it now. So thank you so much.
About it. Of course,
I will.
Course. Yeah. But yes, daily rate, that's, that many states have realized the same thing. Like, well, I've never thought about that because I don't do daily care, but it needs to be something that you kind of think through and figure out for pre-K, universal pre-K for sure. Anybody else? I see Karen asked about the copy of this presentation. Margaret said it will be made available here, I don't know, a week or two, I'm guessing. It will be.
Yeah, and I attached the this presentation that you have sent to me. I attached it to the email reminder that I sent everyone this morning. So those were attached. I can send them again though too. And they'll be on our while they were sleeping spreadsheet. If you go in there and you go on move over to line O, they'll be linked in there as well.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Really important topic for sure. So make sure, even if it's something that, seems a little scary, it's not, I promise. And I love the, actual and the plan columns. So many providers have just been like, wow, I had no idea I was spending that much money. And it kind of goes back to, like I said, that $20 bill that I will hold on to forever in my wallet because I see it as money. But my card, I'm just like, even though it's coming out of the same account. But okay, enough about me. Right. So really quickly before we wrap up, I said that I was going to mention the Tom Copeland blog. Yes, Kristen, see, same thing. It's all of you. Tom Copeland blog. So if you don't know, Civitas Strategies has taken over the Tom Copeland blog. So we are in charge of the Tom Copeland blog since he retired. If you've never been to the Tom Copeland blog, I highly recommend going. There is so much information on the Tom Copeland blog. If you do not find an answer that you are looking for, you can always click the Ask the Experts, and then someone from the Civitas team thank you, Margaret, for putting that in the chat, does a monthly Q&A recording with the questions that are submitted to the blog. The other thing I will say, and I have this slide in Spanish as well, which I will click to in just one second. If you have never been to the Civitas Strategies YouTube channel, again, highly recommend, not just because I work here, but tons of excellent resources. If you have a question about any sort of business topic, you can always search in the search bar as well to see if we have any videos or webinars on that topic. But our YouTube channel is also full of excellent resources as well. And then I'm going to leave this here for our Spanish speakers. But yeah, we are finished. Thank you all so much for joining today. If you don't have any other questions, we are finished. But if you do have questions, I will stay on here for the next few minutes and hopefully answer those for you. But have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.